That was Paw Patrol, for those of you that don't know. And yes, I have kids. Yes, I watch a lot of cartoons, but no, you're not in the wrong place. I'm not going to talk about Paw Patrol, but I think there's a very important sentiment in Paw Patrol. No problem too big, no pup too small. And we'll get back to that at the end. But I'm actually here to talk about, it's a product management war story. I'm going to talk about what our own medicine tasted like. You know, there are a lot of different, you could talk about dog fooding, drink your own champagne, but this is our own medicine. Now I realize now that I have two pictures. That was a bit overkill. But I'm Emil, I'm the Chief Product Officer at Digitroot. And Digitroot is a company that has spent 25 years in usage data and metering and rating and mediation for the world's largest enterprises and telco. We have 400 deployments today, all running revenue critical flows. And for one single customer, we actually manage 50 billion events on a daily basis. So if any company on earth should know about usage-based business models, it should be us. But the truth is, it was very painful. So here's the deal. I'm not here to pitch. Now I see that my notes are not moving. But despite this, we got it wrong with our own pricing. So my promise here today is I'm not here to pitch, but I am here to confess. What did we fail at and what did we make work? And the reason I'm telling this to a room full of product people and not to a room full of CFOs, because I truly believe that pricing is a product decision. Yes, we outsourced it for a decade to finance and sales teams, but it is definitely our problem. We own the value proposition. We are the ones that need to own the value capture. So let's look where we started. We started with a flat fee pricing model. And it worked fantastically well until all of a sudden it stopped working. And we'll get to why it stopped working soon. But let's look at why it was working so well and look at the story that we told ourselves. So flat fee pricing, it's predictable. It's tidy. So this is the story we were telling ourselves. Oh, look here. Customers, they want predictability. Finance teams, they want a clean forecast. And sales, they don't want to get into a debate and argue with customers and prospects every time they show a price list. David, you're with sales at Digitroot, you know that. And engineering, they don't want to get pulled into pricing discussions. They want to focus on shipping new features. And every one of these statements, they are true, but they're also rationalizations. So what changed? Why did this stop working for us? I think a lot of people in here can relate to this, but essentially what changed is AI. I'm not going to talk about building AI products or shipping AI features, but AI really disrupts how we price our products. So essentially what happened is that our products changed. They evolved. They moved into the future. High innovation, solving complex customer problems. But the flip side of that was that our pricing models, they were stuck in the past. They were stuck on this flat fee pricing model. And the thing is, customers, they loved and I'm not exaggerating, everyone loves an AI feature, even if you need it or not. And our customers really loved our AI features. We saw increased product adoption, increased retention. Our customers' workloads, they simply grew. But none of this was reflected in our invoices. So if I plotted it on a line, you'd see two lines diverging year over year. Usage climbing, sometimes even doubling, but our revenue per customer just remained flat. So in SaaS, we like to talk about land and expand. In our case, it was more land and subsidize, which is never good. What we also saw is cracks. 4 cracks started showing up at once when the divergence got loud enough. First, we have margin compression. So our heaviest users, the ones using our product the most, they were paying the same as our lightest users. Secondly, and really tightly connected to the margin erosion and margin compression, is the exploding AI cost. So AI-driven features spiked compute cost overnight. It wasn't gradually, it just happened at once. But our flat fee meant zero incremental revenue to cover them. So the more customers actually adopted our AI features, the more it was costing and hurting us as a business. Then we have misaligned incentives. And this one, as a product person, really hurt a lot. Because our most engaged champions, the customers pushing the most data through our platform, the one we were writing the success stories and case studies about, they were, on paper, our least profitable customers. And then another pain point is the blind spots in finance. Going to the CFO, telling him, hey, I have no idea how much cost we are incurring on a customer or product level. That is really painful. And if you can't answer that question in a usage-based economy, you don't have a pricing model. You have a subscription invoice with a made-up number on it, essentially. So, what did we do about this? Because let's be real, I think a lot of pricing transformations die here. Not in the spreadsheet, but in the politics. Because every function has a legitimate objection to going to a usage-based business model. Sales, terrified of renewals. We talked about renewals just a short while ago. Finance is terrified of forecasting variance. Engineering, they're terrified of a 12-month rebuild of any billing platform or implementing a new ERP. And customers, they're terrified of surprise invoices, bill shock. So the question we asked ourselves was not what is the perfect pricing model, but instead we asked what is the smallest, least dramatic thing that we can do to get us onto the right curve. And I think that reframe is half the answer. Because if you're trying to decide and design a new pricing model in a room, I think you're going to fail. But if you're instead trying to unblock the next good decision, you're definitely going to be making progress. We started by ruling out things. Well, what shouldn't we do? And we looked at 3 tempting ways to not fix this. First one was raise the list price. And I think this is a classic one. I think a lot of people look at this. But it's also the fastest way to hand your next renewal cycle directly to the procurement team of your customer. You don't fix a value capture problem by taxing the same unit harder. We then looked at charging per seat, but doing it harder. We tried to convince ourselves, hey, this is a good idea. It could work. There was not a chance it was going to work. Because nothing we did to seats mapped to what our customers actually valued. Seats, I think we all know this, seats are just a proxy. And when a proxy stops correlating with value, charging more for it is just going to accelerate that trust erosion. And then the final one, the rip and replace billing, rip and replace ERP, whatever it is you have in your tech stack. Now, here we're talking about at least a 12-month engineering effort. I'm going to end up having a fight with our CFO. And maybe even more painful is that I'm going to lose control of my roadmap. Because we will be doing nothing else than building and implementing a billing system. And at the end, there's still no guarantee this is going to work. So once we'd ruled those 3 not so great options out of the picture, we looked at, okay, what can we do? A less heroic, smaller, faster effort to any one of those 3. And we started by tracking usage, both on a customer and a product level. And this wasn't to bill anyone, this was just to see. Because we can't price what we cannot measure. I think there are a lot of companies out there today that are flying blind when it comes to their own usage data. I know we were, and we're supposed to be the experts in usage data. We also monitored AI cost the same way. So we could see variable COGS back to specific customer behaviors. And that one dashboard really changed our pricing conversations more than any strategy deck we ever put together. Thirdly, we cleaned our data. Yes, this might seem boring and unglamorous, but it is non-negotiable. Because if your billing dimensions don't reconcile with product telemetry, no pricing model is going to save you. And there's also a hidden risk when going from a flat fee pricing model into a usage-based pricing model. And that is that it opens up to revenue leakage and bill shock for your customers. So getting your data in order is key. And then finally, we also involved our customers. We didn't surprise them. We showed them their usage, we showed them our cost curve, and we opened up for discussion. What is a reasonable unit of value for you from your side of the table? So that was a bit about our process. Now we're going to look at what we learned. So Act 3. And I'm going to share 3 lessons with you. We're going to start with the pricing model that we ended up landing on at Digital Root. And for us, throughout this whole process, we learned that a hybrid model works well, at least right now. And let's look at what hybrid is for us. So first of all, it's a platform fee. So a fixed fee, and then there's AI credits baked into that platform fee. And on top, we have tiered overage for any AI usage. Why we landed with this? Because this model, my animations are a bit messed up, but this model gives the finance team predictability. So they're not scared. But the flip side is it also gives our customers predictability. We're not shocking them at once. The AI credits that are included gives room for customers to explore without fear. They can try the new AI products without being hit with hard overages from day one. And all of this together gives operations clean, metered data for every single transaction. In the session before, we also talked about upsell opportunities. What this also gave us was a completely new opportunity to talk about upsells. So since we have AI credits included in every package, if you want more AI credits without hitting any overages, it's a natural discussion to have, okay, how do I take this to the next step? And by introducing usage-based pricing packaging in a hybrid wrapper, we were also acclimatizing our users to usage without shocking them. And I think that's really important because it is a big transition also for a customer. But it also allowed us to maintain flexibility for the next frontier, which I truly believe will become outcome-based pricing. But we're starting slowly with a hybrid-based model. Looking at lesson number 2, we also learned that a successful monetization strategy is not a one-time launch. Instead, it's an operating model. And what you see behind me here is what a successful AI monetization strategy and operating model looks like in my books. I think the most important takeaway from this slide is it's not a launch, it's not an initiative, it is an operating model. And it all starts with monitoring. So track usage data in real time. Define your unit of value. It might be API calls, tokens, seats activated, agents run, or minutes transcribed. Whatever works for your business, but make sure to pick one. Instrument it. Own the number the same way you would own a North Star metric for any of your given product features. Next, tie pricing to real usage data you just instrumented. Forecast usage and revenue together, not as 2 separate artifacts. Because a pricing model you cannot forecast is definitely a pricing model that your CFO is going to veto. And they are right to do so. Thirdly, launch. Start charging on actual usage. Start with a small cohort first. Don't roll it out to every single customer at once. Use your renewal dates as natural entry points. But don't do it all at once. That's what we did. It was painful. And then fourthly, modify. So refine your pricing, refine your packaging, run experiments, bundle, unbundle, introduce commits, introduce overages, test tiers. Just try it out. See what works for you and your customers. But treat it as a feature shipping cadence, not a board-approved event. Because pricing runs on a product clock, not on a fiscal clock. And then finally, and I think this was a huge comfort for me during this whole journey, the last lesson is that we are not alone. And if anything really helped me, it was just understanding that. And maybe some of you are on this same journey as well and struggling with some of the same challenges. But the data is clear. I mean, if we look at last year, the 500 largest SaaS companies globally were doing 3.6 pricing and packaging changes per year. And that's up from 1.5 just the year before. I've got some good examples. We've got Salesforce. They did 5 pricing and packaging changes in the past 18 months. We have Lovable that we heard on stage yesterday. They did a substantial pricing and packaging change once every single month last year. So we are not alone. And the thing is that companies that are not changing their pricing models, they aren't stable. It's just that the CFO hasn't done the math yet in the age of AI. So it will hit us all. And then one final thing, and this is to all the product people out there, because I think this is so important. We need to own pricing. Pricing model is product, ship it like one. That means discovery, instrumentation, hypothesis, experiments, metrics, iterations, postmortems. All of these rituals, everything that you do today with a feature for your product, you also owe it to do to your pricing model. Stop letting pricing live in a quarterly financial review. Just take ownership of it. Because I think that the companies that are going to succeed in the next decade, it's not necessarily the ones creating the cleverest or the fanciest new features, but it's the ones that have pricing that actually maps to customer value and where the customers understand that value. So that was my main takeaway from this journey. We need to own it as product people. So if you have any questions afterwards, and if there's no time here, please don't hesitate. Reach out to me outside or send me a message on LinkedIn, because I'd be happy to have some pricing discussions and share more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. Do we have any questions based on what he's shared today? Yes, one over here. Getting my workout in, getting my steps in.
Hey, Emil. Thanks for a really interesting discussion. You mentioned that you thought maybe the next step was success-based pricing. What does that look like, and what are the challenges in getting there?
So I think that there are a lot of challenges there. I think outcome-based pricing is not going to work for every single product offering out there. But I think, for our example, we have a product today that we call anomaly detection, where we're essentially, with the help of AI and machine learning, identify erroneous data in your flow. So what I would like to do next step is actually be able to take that erroneous data out, correct it, reprocess it, and get it shipped to billing and billed. And for me, that would be a perfect opportunity to have an outcome-based pricing approach. So when we've successfully fixed something, and you have the outcome that you desire, that's when we will charge. But I think one of the pain points there, apart from the product side, is the data. Because you need to pull in so much data from various sources to understand, was it a successful outcome or not? So there are a lot of challenges, but I do believe it's the next frontier. And I think Intercom is a fantastic example of their Fin. I think it works fantastically well there. But I think that'll be my next talk, the journey to outcome-based pricing.
Thank you again, Yusuf, Emil, for all your input.